emphasize on our need for such conferences, gatherings in the United States, in America, in UK, and the whole Europe, in order to introduce others about our identity, to explain the principles of faith in Shia Islam, and to show how loyal we are to the path of Ahlul Bayt.
This year we are in Midwest, in Chicago, which is a huge city, and we have a very huge attendance. A lot of people have come from, some of them coming from the driving distance, some took the flight in, but we had a very well-attended conference.
The conference of Imam Hussein, I think, is extra important because I do believe that the lessons that Imam Hussein taught us 1,500 years ago about how to confront injustice and marginalization, how to stand up for those who can't stand for themselves, are as relevant today as they have ever been. And integrating that lesson, integrating the story of Karbala into the larger story of America, I think is the goal and the responsibility of every Muslim in the United States.
And we were very blessed this year that our annual Memorial Day convention fell during the blessed nights of the birth anniversaries of Imam Hussein, Abu Fadl Abbas, and Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. So there was no better date or topic for the convention than the conference of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam Hussein's message provides so much relevant topics for us to really fitting directly with our mission.
Hussein, because he was martyred seeking justice for other people, quite selflessly, has become a symbol of social movements for justice throughout the world. He was praised by Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and so many world leaders have looked to him for an example, even outside the Muslim community. And so it's been an important weekend of commemoration of this beloved historical figure.
There is so much that we can talk about when it comes to the ship of salvation. When Rasulullah comes forward and says, Inna al-Husayn misbahul huda wa safinatun najat. Hussein is the ship of salvation. And what? And the lantern of guidance. The Aimma alayhum as-salam, the 8th holy Imam, was asked, aren't you all the ships of salvation? Aren't you all the cause for success for human beings? The Imam would respond, نحن سفن النجاة. Definitely we are the ships of salvation. ولكن سفينة الحسين أسرع. Yet أوسع. Yet the safina, the ship of Hussein, is wider. وفي لجج البحار أسرع. And when it comes to its movement, it's faster. This is the magnificence and the status enjoyed by Abu Abdullah. Yet the question today is, as we stand to honor and celebrate his auspicious birth, that of his loyal and faithful brother Abu Fadl Abbas and his devout son Imam Zain al-Abidin as-Sajjad salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. What does it mean when it comes to Karbala and the 21st century? How do I connect with the mission, the movement, and the message of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? Brothers and sisters, you only need to read history to come to the conclusion that one of the problems that the community and the society by and large suffered at the time of Imam alayhi salam was what? Was a lack of willpower. ضعف الإرادة. Meaning what? Meaning people had no resolve. People had no determination. They suffered a debilitating illness, that which gradually spread and became manifested in many ways. Let me give you a few examples. Ubaydullah ibn al-Hurr al-Ju'fi, an individual who has fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen in Siffin. On the path, on the way to Karbala, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein hears that this man has camped nearby. He sends a messenger. He says, go to Ubaydullah and tell him, come to me. I want to see you. The messenger of Abu Abdullah goes to Ubaydullah. Ubaydullah says, by God, you know what? I've tried to avoid Hussein all along. I've left Kufa. I don't want to meet him. Yet Abu Abdullah, the mountain of patience and compassion, says, I will go to him. Imam al-Hussein goes to Ubaydullah and says, oh Ubaydullah, I'm offering you salvation. I'm offering you a chance to repent and for your sins to be forgiven. Join me and I guarantee success for you. Ubaydullah says, what? He says, I have a business. I have family. I can't leave them. But I give you my horse. It's a special horse. Abu Abdullah says, we are not in need of your horse. Yet I would tell you this, take yourself and your family members and go far from here, because by God, an individual who does not respond to our call for help shall be chastised and punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the pits of hell. You have a man by the name of Harthama ibn Abi Muslim. Who is this individual? This individual narrates and says, I was with Ali ibn Abi Talib in Safin. When we finished, we came to Karbala. He picked up the soil of Karbala. He smelt it, and he said to the soil, oh soil, what soil you are. From you shall Allah will resurrect individuals who will enter Jannah without accountability. He says, I heard this. Yet Imam al-Hussein comes to him and says to him, join us. Amazing. Can you imagine? He had seen Amir al-Mu'mineen mention the significance of the companions of Abu Abdullah. But you know what Harthama says to him? He says to him, I have a few young children. I don't want them to be orphans. There was no determination. There was no resolve. There was no commitment. Bani Asad. Do you know what Bani Asad did? When they heard Imam al-Hussein was coming to Karbala, they moved from that area. And what happens? Habib ibn Mudahir comes to them, says to them, come and join the grandson of the Holy Prophet. They do not respond to his call. You look at Kufa and what happened to Muslim ibn Aqil. The bribery and the fear that Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad had instilled in the hearts. All of a sudden he looks back and there's no one to support him. Brothers and sisters, there was a major problem, an illness in society. The lack of commitment and will to make a positive change. And that's why when we recite the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah, what do we say? We say, Labbayka da'i Allah. We respond to you, O the one who calls towards the Almighty. إن كان لم يجبك بدني عند استغاثتك ولساني عند استنصارك. I wasn't there, O Abu Abdullah, in person when you called هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من مغيث يغيثنا. I wasn't there. I was not able to respond. فقد أجابك قلبي وسمعي وبصري ورأسي وهواي. O Hussein, yet I was not present in person, but today I respond to you in person, in flesh, in my ears, in my eyes, in my very existence. And I hear your call.
I want to tell you a story that happened to me in 2006. This was after Pope Benedict, the previous pope, made those unfortunate comments in which he quoted a crusader about the Prophet Muhammad. And those comments, of course, resulted in protests in large parts of the world. And as a way of perhaps making up for the consequences of those comments, the Pope decided that he was going to make a trip to Turkey. It was his first trip to a Muslim majority state. And every news outlet in the world decided that they were going to follow the Pope there to see what would happen. And CNN asked me to accompany Anderson Cooper to Turkey in order to talk to Turks, in order to be there for what was, by everyone's expectation, going to be a very large, angry protests and response to the Pope's presence in Turkey as a result of those unfortunate comments. So Anderson and I went to Istanbul with a camera crew and a microphone, and we were there about 24 hours before the Pope arrived, and so we were walking around the streets of Istanbul interviewing, you know, just regular people on the streets, and we would stop them and we would say, how do you feel about Pope Benedict's upcoming visit to Turkey? And they would say things like, the Pope is coming to Turkey? Awesome. That's great. Oh, fantastic. Oh, the Pope is coming? Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, it's going to be great for business. Great. Sounds good. Yeah. When is the Pope? Is the Pope coming soon? This went on for about 4 hours. We walked up and down the streets. We talked to, I would say, maybe 30, 40 different people. Men, women, some of them in hijabs, you know, some of them wearing sort of very revealing clothes, secularists, pious people. We talked to as many people as we could find to get one person to actually say something negative about the Pope, actually to even be, you know, even knew that the Pope was on his way to Turkey. We couldn't find anyone. So this went on for about a good day. And at the end of the day, Anderson and I, we called the producers back in New York at CNN, and we said, hey, listen, I know you sent us here to find angry people and to cover these protests, and we can't find anybody. We can't find anybody who's angry or who even cares, for that matter. But we have a better idea for a story, okay? This is the story that we want to tell. We want to tell the story that goes like this, that when you live in a country with a fast-growing economy, where you have actually a job and a house and a car and, you know, 2.5 kids, and they've got a future ahead of them, turns out it doesn't matter what the Pope says. That when you've got actually a future, you care about that far more than you care about what some guy in Rome has to say about your prophet. That's a great story. Let's tell that story. And the producer from New York, I'll never forget it, said, we paid tens of thousands of dollars to send you to Istanbul to find angry protesters. Find angry protesters.
The question on everyone's lips, no doubt, at the moment in the world is, when is the reappearance of the Imam known as the Mahdi? You find that in virtually every circle in the West and in every circle in the East, there are people asking the question that, are these the signs of the reappearance? There isn't a single question and answer session that goes by without many people asking this particular question. And especially when we look at the events that are occurring in the world currently, this question becomes even more important. People look at the countries that are involved. And when they look at these countries, they ask themselves, surely these are the signs of the times of the Imam. Indeed, when we look at the wars that are taking place in Yemen, or what took place in Syria, or what's taking place in Iraq, or indeed what is taking place in the leadership in Saudi Arabia, to many these are certainly the signs of the reappearance of the Mahdi. Indeed, you find that there are many, when they go to lectures, who may even hear speakers who may give them an indication that the signs are all clearly there. There are certain leaders from Lebanon who are being talked about as being the Yamani. There are certain leaders in Iran who are being talked about as being the Khurasani. There are quotes and quotes being given from Bihar al-Anwar, where people are being told that, look, when this man dies and his brother comes and he's called a lion, then know that the Mahdi is near. There are certain scholars who attribute certain stories to others. I remember only a few years ago growing up in an environment where reportedly the renowned scholar in Iran by the name of Ayatollah Bahjat, may Allah bless his soul, was known to have said, according to certain rumors, that the lady who's going to kill the 12th Imam or the Mahdi is alive. Therefore, you found many people, the question that's on their lips is, when is the reappearance of the Mahdi? Where is the Mahdi? What is the timing of when the Mahdi will reappear? And I don't blame many people for asking this question. Surely it all comes together. Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Hijaz, Yemen, all coming together at the same time. Many will turn around and say, surely this is the time of the reappearance of the 12th Imam. And I don't want to put a downer on things. At the end of the day, there are many who will turn around and say, please tell us when is the reappearance and whether you have seen him. I think many of the scholars here will be asked the same question. Do you know when the reappearance is? And have you seen him? First and foremost, let's make something very clear from the outset. There is no one on this earth who can tell you when the reappearance is. Why? That is a clear point from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. That anyone who's telling you that the reappearance is next week, next month, next year, that person is a liar. Stay away from such personalities. That's from the outset. Then someone might turn around and say, well, have you met the Imam? I'll go as far as saying that even those who have claimed to have met the Imam could be classified as liars as well. Because today you find that there are many in the world who are giving us stories of them being the son-in-law of the Imam, the daughter of the Imam, having lunch with the Imam, and that becomes problematic and it becomes extremely difficult. Why? If you go now to certain parts of Iraq, there are people who actually claim that they are the son-in-laws of the Imam. And there is absolutely no one who can deny that on their part. You see, the problem is when someone says, I meet the Imam, you can't categorically deny that he's meeting the Imam, knowing that the Imam is actually with us. But the problem is if he turns around to you and says, well, the Imam told me to say this and the Imam informed me of this, this becomes extremely problematic. There is no doubt that the issue of the Mahdi is an issue which affects every Muslim in this world today. Whether you are Sunni or you are Shia, it is an incumbent obligatory belief to have the belief in the Mahdi. In other words, the discussions concerning the Mahdi is not just a contemporary discussion, but a discussion that affects each and every human being as well. But further than that, on the first level, and sometimes we forget these in these discussions, it's an extremely spiritual discussion. The discussion concerning the Mahdi, do not discount it as some academic discussion. Because sometimes when we fall in the world of academic discussions, we forget the soul that's involved in discussions. Academia can have a tendency to be extremely aloof from having spirituality. When we come and sit here today and discuss whether the events relate to the 12th Imam or relate to the Mahdi, this is a spiritual discussion. Why? Because the Ahlul Bayt first and foremost have made it clear to us, whoever dies without knowing the Imam of their time dies the death of someone in ignorance. Therefore, A, we're trying to know about the Imam of our time. Secondly, we have a supplication where we clearly say, Oh Allah, allow me to know you. For if you don't allow me to know you, I will not know your Prophet. Oh Allah, allow me to know your Prophet. For if you don't allow me to know your Prophet, I will not know your proof on earth, the Mahdi. Oh Allah, allow me to know and learn and understand about the Mahdi, because if I don't, I have deviated from my religion. Therefore, this discussion becomes extremely spiritual for all of us as well. It's not just a discussion to be taken on an academic level. But no doubt, the central question in this discussion is, are these the signs of the reappearance?
After the bombing of 7/7 and 21/7, 7 years ago in UK, the government decided to have the right to invade the privacy of the mosques and issued a proposal that the head of the police station in that borough has the right, without getting the permission from the court, to enter any mosque, take all the documents, lock it without any warning from the court. So it was a threat. And here we thought that we Shias, although we don't have such experience and nothing to worry about, but we have to work together with the Sunnis. And an organization, a steering committee first was established by 4 groups, 3 organizations from Ahl Sunnah. One was MCB, Muslim Council of Britain, where 600 mosques in the whole United Kingdom are covered by MCB. Then another organization by British Muslim Forum. Mostly these are Brailleys and lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and approximately 240 mosques are run by them. Then a third one was the group of Ikhwan and Rashid al-Ghannouchi. Fewer mosques belonged to them. And Al-Khoy Foundation was the Shia organization. So 4 steering committees worked together, 2 representatives of each, and we wrote to the government that please do not take this decision, this action. We try to organize and manage ourselves and our mosques. And according to them, they said that we are going to shelve this. And you know that shelving it, which means that it is not completely forgotten, can be used any minute. Alhamdulillah, in the last 7 years, these 4 organizations work together, and I can say proudly, the experience of working with our brothers of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in different ways, especially in this particular way, to give the best of advice to the mosques, how to run, how to create how to combat the extremism, how to train the youth, how to make facilities for those who want to attend for trainings and some other activities there, avoiding all types of extremism. And alhamdulillah, it was fruitful. And it was again funny to say that we had some